Man, do I like that image of mine.
Of yours.
Mine.
You
Uh,
know, a lot of people are afraid to say that. I just love this image of mine. And that you got to get over that because for me, that's your measuring stick, how much you love it.
I love, love, love this
And if you
image.
don't love it, why would you expect others to love it?
That's a great example of that because we've had a show where we've talked about that. And I'm of the the club that says I don't know, it feels a little awkward, but man, I love this image. I really do.
And
Yeah,
that brings up another example. On our last trip to the Faroes, everybody was in that church trying to recreate that image.
I know. Yep. And as a tour leader in that case, you got to do it, right? Because that's what they want and they're a customer. But you're right. I mean, there's a part of me going, that is a little awkward if I were to want to do that nowadays, So, anyways, so speaking of images, some of the feedback we've gotten is that they like seeing us share some images, not only the ones behind us. And feedback I get a lot of the times from folks is especially what you do on your website, and that's where you talk about the story behind the image. And it really is fascinating. And I don't know if I can do quite as good of a job, but I'm going to try. But why don't you go ahead and queue up an image for us and give us an idea of what you're doing on your website. And then hopefully this will also encourage folks who have not been to Cole's website to go out. I mean, they're actually voice recordings, folks, of him telling you the story behind the image, and they're fascinating. So go ahead.
Well, I think this idea also merges with our recent show about Hal and his
Yeah.
portraits and how his story, kind of explained the situation of the portrait. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Mine tell the story behind the image, how it came to be. So there's different ways that words can work with images. His was telling a very important part of the story. So let me share mine. I've picked one that I've never talked about before.
Ah, okay.
Um, I think I entitled this Broken Window. And I was just out hiking. I always just would just pick an area and just wander looking for things. And I came across an old ruin of a building. And, old buildings have been shot a billion times before. So that doesn't really attract me because it's such a well covered subject. But as I went inside, I just loved this abstract. And I don't know, it's just something about it I love. And I thought about that because it's not a very popular image of mine. If you lined this up with all of my images, it would probably be in about last place in
Yeah.
terms of others and how they felt about it. But for me, it was expressing something, and I can't tell you in words. I can only show you in picture, and I just love this image, and it shows that the ones that you love, that for some reason you connect with, may not be popular with other people. In fact, I've almost felt as though there's an inverse relationship. The more I love something, less others will. And the less I love it, the more others will. And I
Yeah.
had somebody once in one of my presentations ask me a very awkward question, and I didn't want to answer it publicly. And he said, do you ever feel like when you create an image and it's wildly popular that you're a little bit disappointed?
Huh.
And I tried to give a political answer where I didn't answer it by answering it, and he called at me out and says, "But you didn't answer it." And I go, "Yes, I do feel that way.
Huh.
If it's wildly popular to the masses, I feel that I've failed."
Interesting.
Yes, very interesting. But anyway,
Yeah.
this is an image that I love, and I can't tell you why. And I know it's not very popular with others, but to me, it's a successful image.
Yeah. Well, I've never seen it. So I love when I see work of yours that I've never seen. I find it odd that it might not be that popular because I think it's a really, really a dynamic composition and different and unique of an old abandoned place. Very different than I've seen others do. So I think it's terrific. So,
How about you? What do you got to share a story behind the image?
all right, let's see. Let's do this and make it a little better. So, I can't stop thinking about this trip to Scotland. And we were along a river. And it's can be somewhat difficult as you're leading a group on this particular retreat because you're mindful of the participants. And it was a beautiful, beautiful stream, lots of incredibly beautiful foliage along the way. And so I was making those images. And then I came around a corner, and here was a whole bunch of foam in really black water. And I was like, are you kidding me? I was just blown away by this foam in the water. And so, I try to practice what we talk about here and think about what's going on, what's the attraction. And I spent some time just mesmerized by the water and not even making photographs. And just looking at the patterns that were being created by the swirls that are going on in the water as well. And I photographed from the other side for a while. And then I stopped and was thinking. And then I went around the other side so I could maybe get. It looked like a difficult place to get to, but I'd hoped that I could. And sure enough, I scrambled through the woods and I was kind of up above looking down more on the water here. And then I started thinking about that feel. What is the feeling that I'm having? Hang on a second. I'm going to mute. Didn't want to cough in your ears there. And I started thinking about, so what is it really that I'm photographing here? Is it really foam, or is it the motion? Is it the abstracts that are being created by the movement of the foam? And so I started experimenting with longer exposures, various ones, a fifth of a second, a half a second, trying to find, the pattern that was being created and the angels that are being created in the water. That's what I started to see, was these figures in this
Mm,
particular spot being created. But I felt like the use of a long exposure here did a better job
mm.
of conveying the experience that I was having and the connection that I was having to this foam rather than just a straight shot of the foam. And so
It's a
anyway,
lovely image. Do you have the before? I would love to see the before image if it's easy to do.
yeah, I think what we can do, well, there's not a before necessarily, but this here is the foam, you know,
Ah, still.
much like, yeah, yeah, as a still photograph. And I don't think, although, hang on, no, shoot, where's the color one? I should have a color foam one there, and I'm not seeing it. Doggone it. No, I don't have it real quickly, and I don't want to, especially
Yeah.
when we're recording, I don't want to
Well,
give
it's
it
a
away.
delightful image. I never would have guessed that was the type of foam you were photographing either. So,
Yeah.
huh,
Yeah. Well, that's what I was trying to find. The one is a straight shot of that foam in a vertical. It wasn't quite that dense. I was able to find a place where it was a little more broken, but it was still very much that foam. It was still that white and black. That was very much representative of the foam. But I was able to find a little edge of it that had a little bit more broken areas.
and see, you couldn't have just run up, taken a shot, and run off and you've gotten that. You had to watch it. You had to see how you were feeling, and then you had to experiment a little bit, play a little bit. Yeah. So
It,
it's
it,
not trophy shot, trophy shot, trophy shot. It's take your time, slow down.
Yeah, no, exactly right, Cole. I mean, I spent probably an hour and a half
Mm,
in that location. And the tug again is, this is my first time here. I wonder what's over there. Gosh, I'm sitting here and I love this. And I know
yeah.
I think I got to go and I think I'll move on.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I kept, that was a battle going on and on and on. And then I finally said, no, this is crazy. I love what's happening right here. If I don't move the rest of the day here, I'm okay. Right. And thankfully, we went back to that location. I was able to explore some of the other things going on in that location. But I really, if there's one thing I've learned, really clearly in the last like 5 years, 6 years, is when I fall in love with something, I'm not going anywhere. It's
Yeah.
still hard. It's still, I feel those tugs wanting me to go find out what's around the corner. But I know that, and it was so worth it because the images I got from that foam were great.
Well, that brings up why I dislike photographing with another photographer or another person, because you're wanting to stay in one place, and the other person may want to go, they may have to go to the bathroom,
But
and you're just like always worried you're inconveniencing
yeah,
someone, but you want to stay, and you want to, my wife's sitting there, take your time,
yes,
and then you get the look, and then you get the, you know, that
how
little silent hints. You
that
guys
one?
watch talking to you?
No, the
Oh,
silent hint
oh
when your wife's
yes.
going like this.
Or then the loud sighs. Yes, yeah. So
That's why it's a blessing when you can find a friend. You and I have no problem photographing together. We're rarely together. We just set a time and then we check in with each other. And if you're still having fun, you go, great. I go sit in the car, you keep shooting. It's all good. Same as it was with my good friend Dan. Not an issue because we understood that if somebody was in a moment, man, you're just going to let them be.
got to be
Yeah,
there.
we'll be sharing some behind the stories behind images and why we're in love with this image. I think we'll do a little bit more of that from time to time. Let us know in the comments below after you ring the bell, which we have no idea what that does. But seriously, comment saying, is that something you'd like to see more from us? Us talking about our photographs from time to time. And we'll see you in 3 or 4 days.